Hi, this is Doug Manch, and you're listening to Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast.
Yes, welcome back, Looney listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast. This is episode 138. I'm your High Priest of Khonshu Rey, up for another ripper of an episode. Again, a bit of a bumpy ride to begin with before we even hit the record button. I'm with you, glad you can join us. With me, I do have a very special guest returning onto the show, Joey Mega Man Agliata. Joey, how you going?
I'm doing pretty well, man. Thanks again for having me on here. It's always good to talk to you.
Oh, it's always great. It's a lot of great fun talking to you. And my gosh, you must be zombie-eyed. Joey's up in the wee hours of the morning here. It's late night for me. Not too late, actually. But anyway, all that aside, a few gremlins aside, we're on the show. Finally on the show. And Joey, I just wanted to mention, Joey has been on the show before. I've got you down here, episode 129 and 133. Both of them were Avatars of Vengeance. So they were both reviews on video games, all to do with Moon Knight. It's good to have you on, Joey, for a comic book review.
Yeah, this is finally the time that I have to talk about comic books. I feel like the other two times we've just been talking about video games, which we kind of have, so it's good to actually sit down and chat about our boy here. And also, I need to call attention to the fact that all bad things come in threes, and this is my third time on here. So here we go. Here we go.
Well, hopefully all that bad stuff has happened before this show started, Loonies. Oh my gosh, there was a little bit of a kerfuffle with gremlins and such, but we're good now. So speaking of tonight, so Joey's on, and don't want to look, there's no slight, Joey, actually having you on for the Avatars of Vengeance. You are an avid gamer, you're well versed in it, so it was a very good privilege actually to have you on for those two. Found it very insightful for myself, but I'm sure a lot of Loonies would have gleaned a lot from your expertise.
Oh, well, hopefully, I hope, I did play a little bit more of Contest of Champions after we discussed it. My opinions remain the same. But I did mention a character in one of the previous episodes. It was the ice ballerina mutant girl whose name is Bora. So I totally forgot to fix that little error up in the meantime. So that's who I was referring to. That's who I was stumbling around, ambling madly about.
I mean, rightly so. I mean, that's a very obscure reference, but I'm glad you picked up on it again, Joey. So Bora. Any Bora fans out there?
Literally none. Not a single person.
Maybe someone is named Bora. Maybe he or she go, well, I've got a kinship with this character, and they may have taken it with them. Who knows? Anyway, I think you're on the right track there, Joey. Speaking of which, Loonies, we are back for a LUNAR-PICK review. So those of you looking up in the night sky will know it is a waxing crescent, and that means Khonshu decrees that we do a modern run review. So tonight we are returning to Brian Michael Bendis, his Volume 6, Issue 6. Now, I originally thought, Joey, that this was the climax, the finale for the first arc, but having a look at the trade that I'm reading, it goes on for one more. So there's Issue 7 kind of wraps things up for the first arc. So it'd be interesting to see, I mean, your thoughts on this issue. Needless to say, your thoughts on Brian Michael Bendis' take on Moon Knight.
Well, you know what? I don't want to clog up a lot of the episode with my Bendis slander, I guess. I think a lot of what can be said about him and his run with Moon Knight has been said, but I will say just slightly that I don't hate this run as much as a lot of other avid Moon Knight fans, for sure. I actually think there are some really good parts about it, and we'll get into that when we talk about the issue. But yeah, I don't think it's as bad as the Bemis run or even Vengeance of the Moon Knight. But it's not really a game of which is worst. I guess that's where my head goes.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. Look, Loonies within the group and the page will be well aware of people throwing their opinions as to what is better, what is worse. Like you said, it's not a competition. Everyone's got different tastes. It's great. Bemis has come up as well. People have very distinct views on him. But yeah, Brian Michael Bendis, look, I agree with you as well. We'll get into it. There are some things of merit to this run, but there are, again, other things that I find problematic that could be, say, improved upon. But anyway, we shall get to that. Before we do, just a quick shout out again to our faithful patroonies, those Patreon members, Joey, who are Joey's one of them, who have been so kind as to support the show, not only thanking you so much for listening and for participating in the groups and stuff, but by throwing a bit of coin our way as well. It really does help to expand the show and to cover the costs as well. So very much appreciated. So a big thank you to the patroonies there, but also our sponsors, Hello Headphones. Just glad to have them on as a sponsor, and of course, again, if you use the promo code ITK Moon Knight on their online store, you can get 10% off. So big shout out to them. All right, Joey. Well, before we get into it, I mean, it's been a while since we chatted. We had a bit of a chat beforehand, before we kind of lost audio, either one of us, for 5-10 minutes, which was and again, just mindful that you're up in the wee hours.
It's early. It's a good early.
It's
a good early. By the way, are you wearing Hello headphones? Are you wearing them as we speak? Because I'm trying to call you out right now, and I need to know.
Now this is very awkward. No, no, I'm not. But I do endorse Hello headphones. And I will be getting a pair soon.
Well, we shouldn't bust out the good headphones for coronavirus podcasts. That's just the way it should go. You should just use any other regular headphones in case they get infected.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good point.
That's my save for you. I've saved you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was about to say, with us all indoors and podcasts being a nice alternative for people staying at home, I thought you were going to say it's good to crack open the good headphones, get yourself nice and comfy in the seat, get a nice drink. But I like the way you think, Joey.
The whiskey headphones.
Well, I'm on the tea tonight, purely because I've run out of whiskey. But
oh, it's early, man. You must have been going hard. You're not ready for this yet.
I'm not ready. No. That's exactly. But speaking of coronavirus, I mean, just let's shoot the breeze a little here. Let's jump and shoot the breeze, Joey.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah. Everyone knows. Look, it's happening. It's a pandemic. Coronavirus. I don't want to dwell on it too much, but I guess for posterity, we are living in it now. So, I mean, how are things holding up over there? I know we spoke about it a little earlier.
Yeah, I think we are probably a little bit more closed down than you guys are right now. But for the most part, a lot of carry-out restaurants are still open. Grocery stores are still open. A couple places here and there. Markets, like small shops are. But there was just a sort of statewide mandate that came into place that shut almost everything down the other day. So, it is what it is. I'm just using this time to catch up on my endless backlog of games and comics. So it's a good opportunity, man. Like despite being a podcaster and whatever, I still am pretty introverted. And so I think in a way it's not a good thing, but I'm trying to make it a good thing if I'm forced to being stuck at home,
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think, yeah, it is good to see albeit the silver lining. I mean, I know it's a terrible thing, and a lot of people are really going through a lot of hardships and stuff. But it is good to make the most of the situation. Look, my partner Eve was saying as well. Like on the flip side, like pollution and all that is actually down. Everything to do with the human being's existence and its affliction upon planet Earth seems to be lessened during this time. So, and people are learning to, I guess, to communicate in different ways and to do things. So, whether this is a step forward in the way we as a society will be different and looking at work and how we do that, because technology, we've got the means to do it, right? There are a lot of traditional workplaces out there that could probably do with a rethink and how they do things. So, yeah, I mean, there's always a flip side. I'm with you, Joey, as well. Reading, catching up on stuff will be really good. At the moment, I'm working from home 3 days a week, but it was just announced this evening on national news as well that in the next 48 hours there will be a huge lockdown. So I think we're following.
Then you'll be where we are now.
Yeah, we're following you in that sense, which is about bloody time if you ask me. I mean, if you look at the state of progress, that Australia is, we're trajectorying like 25. The cases are increasing 25% each day, similar to like Italy and other countries in Europe and Germany as well. So, and the annoying thing is people are still very Aussie. People are still out on the beaches. Just the other day there was just a whole heap of them. It's like, why? What are you guys doing? You're making the most of your free time, but like this is a health, risk. This is a very sensitive time. So anyway, a bit more media exposure has tried to show the importance of it. I myself, I don't feel I'm not a fearmonger myself, but I'm just cautious of it. Got some relatives, got my mum who's in the high risk factor. So yeah. Anyway, it's one of those things, Joey. It's crazy.
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of funny. One big criticism that I hear from everyone about media is that you can't really tell a new story or a different story. But there's never been a supervillain who has tried to stop world pollution by giving people a virus. So, maybe Marvel, take some notes here, man.
Yeah.
And see how that goes.
Exactly. I can't remember the other things Aif was telling me. There were some very salient points about, the statistics now of what has improved. But anyway, still kind of on the subject here, Joey, as well. I wanted to do a big shout out to everyone's local comic book stores. Look, we are part of a geek community, right? So, of course, there are other bigger, grander pictures and greater perspectives. But if we're talking about our corner of society and geeks and comic book fandom in general, LCSs, they're going to take a huge hit with this. So there are some ways in which you can support your comic book store, because I know, Joey, I read an article, there's a whole heap of American comic book stores have kind of signed up to I guess promote this way in which you can prop up the industry, help them kind of survive, because it's going to be pretty tough for them.
Yeah, and can I use this opportunity to shout out my local comic book store?
Absolutely.
So if you live in Chicago, there's a ton of options, but I live pretty close to Graham Cracker Comics in Lakeview, and they're a chain, but the one in Lakeview is really dope. Really good people work there. It's just a great environment. And I have to give a story because maybe a month ago or a little bit longer, maybe it was earlier this month, I don't remember, but it wasn't long ago. Some guy broke in the store, and he was like on the cameras and everything. He broke a window, and instead, while he was in the store, he called his girlfriend and asked her like what he should steal, basically. And I'm sure there's the telephone game here. I'm definitely probably gutting this story, but he didn't steal anything of value. He just like stole a TV and a couple things, like none of the, you know, the behind the counter comics, the stuff that's on display, none of the stuff that's like actually worth money and marked as such. Like, just, oh man, the guy sucks. So so I think that you guys could be helping out Graham Cracker in this trying time in two ways: fix their window and also support them during this time. Because I don't know if they're still taking orders or if they're even open, but you know, when this whole thing passes, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of catching up to do for all these small shops, and it's going to be hard. So I think a lot of people should definitely practice some patience too when they do go back to these shops after they've been closed for 2.5 weeks. You know, there's going to be lines out the door. It's going to be crazy. Things may be disorganized. It's going to be a mess for everyone.
That's a very, very good point. And just for comic book fans to be mindful of that and the ramifications of what's happening, and for them to close for such a long time. It's going to be a little bit of bedlam, I'm imagining, until kind of the dust settles. But you know, if you can, I'm just pulling up the website now. So there was an open letter which a lot of comic book stores, local comic book shops, have signed on to be part of this open letter. It's from brokenfrontier.com. I'll put the link in the show notes. And it's an open letter to comic readers. So in addition to what Joey mentioned, like definitely being patient with your orders and you know, with tracking your pull list and stuff, the way that you can support them, your comic book store, is to, if you haven't already, to start a standing order. And if you don't have one, this way it kind of can, obviously it is a not really a guarantee these days with the standing orders, because people sometimes don't pick them up, but it is some sort of assurance to the LCSs that, you know, this is their stock, like coming in, or this is what they have to supply. Please clear your order at least once a month as well. This is mentioned. And I want to actually mention too, because a lot of these points are common to, I subscribe to the Jeff Lemire newsletter as well. Moon Knight alumni, great writer, and he did the same thing as well. I think he tweeted something similar about ways that you can support your local comic book store. So clear out your order at least once a month. Any little extras that you can order, that would go a long way as well. So if you add on top of your standing order, I mean, it sounds obvious, but please consider that. Signal boosting on social media, your local comic book store. So Joey, tick there for Graham Cracker.
Yeah, I'm checking off all these boxes, and also my heart is swelling because Jeff Lemire is probably has my favorite Moon Knight run, and to see him speaking the gospel just brings my heart full of joy.
He tweeted it out like a good fair few days before this was kind of dropped. And finally, as Joey said, just be patient when they're operating on reduced staff, reduced hours, and reduced access to their stores. So if you can exercise all those above, then you're doing really well. And I'm just going to have a little look if your comic book store has been part of this. So the people that have linked themselves, the LCSs, to this open letter, the likes of Gosh Comics from London, Big Bang Comics from Ireland, Impact Comics from Australia. There we go. And there's a whole heap of American ones here. Comic City, The Comics Shop. Stop me if you heard any of these, Joey. Golden Eagle Comics and Games. I know Josh Johnson would have been part of that somewhere. 21. Titan Comics, Hooked on Comics. The Comics Envy, Cosmic Monkey Comics. Look, they're all over the place here. Just having a quick look if there's any from Chicago.
I'm convinced that all comic book stores aren't real. Like, their names are just not real. They all sound like they exist in comics.
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Like only it's like not like diegetic to the real world at all. So
exactly. Zeppelin comics, there you go. Dr. No's comics. Cape and Cowl, very good. Anyway, there's a whole heap of them there. So please do support your comic book store, Loonies, if you can. Yeah, I mean, finally, Joey, I don't know, current comic books that you're reading. Are you reading the Marvel Event Empire at all?
no, you know what? That was one of the things that's on my list or on my pull list.
Yeah.
And I just haven't picked them up.
Yep.
So I don't even know what if they have come out. I look through stuff that has Moon Knight or has characters that I'm interested in and just throw it on the pull list. And that was on there. I haven't got a chance. Have you been reading it at all?
No, I haven't. This is one of the events that I've actually have no idea. I mean, I know the premise, the very basic premise, but yeah, I have not been following it at all. I'm just wondering if it's any good. It might be tied to Outlawed as well. That's another big kind of event that's happening in Marvel. The teenage superheroes are kind of being outlawed, for want of a better word. So we're getting the titles, the likes of the New Warriors, which I'm very excited about. I don't know if you saw any news about that, Joey?
No, man, I honestly have been completely out of the loop in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I admittedly have kind of as well. Just kind of gearing up for the Age of Khonshu coming up, really.
Yeah.
And
the only age worth ushering in.
And that was my very kind of suave segue there, Joey, because going on to White Noise, our news, two bits of news only that are worth mentioning. Again, Loonies, there's so many on fan casting, and I don't know, when is Moon Knight coming out on Disney Plus, and then a whole lengthy description of Moon Knight. We all know who he is and what he does. But the two bits of news here, Joey. The first one, Avengers 35. This is, I think, part 3. Would be part 3 of Age of Khonshu, and this was released in the Newsarama Marvel June 2020 solicitations. So just reading here, so by Jason Aaron, Javier Garron, beautiful cover there of Moon Knight with Mjolnir over Thor, by Matteo Scalera, and there's some variant covers as well. Joey, do you want to read out the little synopsis?
Yeah, so I haven't. I feel like a cheater because I haven't actually read this. The only thing I've really read is the Arkham Knight or Arkham Asylum, Grant Morrison stuff. But either way, here is my description. I'm gonna read it all bland. An empowered, godlike Moon Knight has just saved the world from fiery ruin, depending on your pronunciation. Now an army of mummies and moon priests begins to reshape the world in the image of ancient Egypt. That's different. But where does that leave the Avengers? Broken, imprisoned, or on the run in the moonlit streets of New Thebes City?
Tantalizingly kind of vague. But, enough there to kind of give you a little, not much, give you a little bit. But this is sounding pretty cool, Joey. I mean, I can't wait for...
Yeah, this sounds interesting. This I'm really into this. I need to pick this up.
Yeah, well, I had a little look at League of Comic Geeks. That's the kind of repository I always look for new comics and stuff coming out week to week. And the issue 33, which is part 1, is meant to drop in April, and I wanted to get a firm date for that. Now, 33 and 34 seem to have dropped off the list. I don't know what's happened, whether that means it's going to be delayed or anything.
Yeah.
So April and May, it's kind of up in the air again. So I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Stay tuned, Loonies, and we'll keep you up to date with that. But it should start soon. I mean, we're ending March now, so that would be very exciting. Jason Aaron, always a good writer, and Javier Garron, a pretty decent artist as well. Are you familiar with either of those guys? Obviously, Aaron's work.
Yeah, a little bit of Jason Aaron, but not really of Javier Garron. So, anything that you would recommend?
Jason Aaron or Javier?
Oh, of Javier, just like stuff that really seems, I don't know, eye-catching that he's done.
Yeah, I mean, truth be told, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. You caught me out again here, Joey.
Ooh, I gotcha.
But I have definitely seen his stuff before. I'm just checking, doing a bit of a quick thing now. I'm doing a Google and I've come up with a small horse. So maybe Geron.
Oh, looks like he did Miles Morales.
Miles Morales, yeah.
In the 2019 run of that. So
yeah,
interesting. I wonder if he did the Carnage stuff.
He could have.
If he did, then I am familiar a little bit with his art. So
yeah, I've seen. I see some images of Venom here, Doctor Strange as well. So he's done a bit of that, and it looks like he's done a Fantastic Four and Spider-Man as well. So pretty cool. Can't wait to see him do the Age of Khonshu. That will be good. Nice level of detail in his artwork. Yeah, excellent. So, Loonies, if you haven't seen it already, we've posted up in the group and on the page the front cover for issue 35. Should be exciting. And the second bit of news is kind of related to this. There was a little tweet from Donny Cates, and there was an article as well that was also released explaining that no, Moon Knight is not worthy to lift Thor's hammer, Mjolnir. So, funnily enough, we do see that on issue 35, but Donny Cates, he kind of clarifies there was a little bit of speculation in the Damnation event, and those of you will know, it was it last year or even the year before last, 2018?
I think it's 18, yeah. 18 going into 19.
Yeah, it was a crossover event, and Doctor Strange, Moon Knight was very tangential in it, but there was a scene where he was trying to pick up the hammer, and apparently it kind of moved, or it I can't even remember these days. Anyway,
he was like grasping for it, and it like slipped through his hand, and I think a lot of people were like, oh, is he picking it up? I remember there was a huge thing about this on our Facebook page too.
Yeah, and I didn't really. I mean, the way that he was depicted anyway in that event was a little bit, let's just say, forgettable for me. But anyway, Donny Cates
always Moon Knight and crossovers, man. It's just something that it should be better than it is, but it's not.
Well, then let me put this to you, then, Joey. Just quickly after that Damnation, what were your thoughts on Moon Knight in Contagion? If you'd read it, I
didn't finish Contagion, so I can't give you an accurate feel on that.
How about Serpent War?
I didn't, I haven't read that either. I haven't read anything in the last probably 4 or 5 months. Modern comics.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'd recommend...
I'm a bad fan.
No, not at all. I'd recommend Conan's Serpent War, actually. Moon Knight he's pretty good in that. What you said earlier, I think, also goes... and relates to the Contagion run. Although Moon Knight has a big part in that, I still think his interpretation wasn't the best, unfortunately, from Ed Brisson. So yeah, he's had a bad run with team up crossovers and such. But anyway, so Donny Cates says he tweeted lots of misunderstanding about this scene in Damnation, which is my fault as the writer. But no, Moon Knight is not worthy in this panel. Mjolnir was already lifting in preparation to fly back to Thor. He just happens to be grabbing it as it lifted. Sorry. So Donny Cates kind of puts that to bed for anyone thinking. But having said that, issue 35 on the Avengers front cover, kind of in your face in that sense.
If I could get like a supercut of Donny Cates just roasting people, because he does this on Twitter all the time, I would be really into that.
Oh, right. Wow. He's pretty, got a bit of a vicious tongue?
Yeah, but in a good way.
Oh,
okay. Like just calling out people being stupid. And
okay.
I guess bigoted.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh, well, good. Well, then deservedly so.
He's got a good presence. He's got a good Twitter presence.
Cool. Well, all right, Joey. Well, how about we've gone just for a bit. Why don't we take a little break now, And when we come back, Loonies, we will get straight into our modern run review, our LUNAR-PICK modern run... it's all gone. Okay, our LUNAR-PICK modern run review, Moon Knight issue 6, volume 6 from Brian Michael Bendis.
The devil was once the most beautiful and favored of all the heavenly host, but once infected with the sin of pride, he was cast out of the Lord's sight into the farthest depths of hell. In his humiliation, the devil raged, "'Tis better to rule in hell than serve in heaven. My offspring, the October Pod, will one day conquer mankind and all the Lord's works. And so, reborn once each month at 1:38 a.m., by man's reckoning of time, the October Pod rises from its slumber, seeking what bold individualists it may devour. Edward October presents October Pod, a terrifying spook show. Available now on YouTube, Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, and at OctoberPodVHS.com. Octoberpod, retro horror for bold individualists.
Yes, welcome back, Looney listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast. This is episode 138. I am with fellow Looney Joey. How you going, Joey?
I just finished my tea, so I'm probably going to be a little bit more hopped up.
Excellent, excellent. Is that is there a little bit of something in that tea, Joey?
No, just a little Earl Grey. A little bit of bergamot. That's all.
Okay.
You know.
No worries. Welcome back, Loonies. We are here now to talk about the issue that we all came here to talk about. Was that good English? I don't know. It is. Yeah. Was it okay?
It was a mouthful. I'll say that much. But it was a good mouthful. And also, I like the concept of like this being the issue. For some reason, like somebody being really, really pumped to be like, I just can't wait to issue 6 of the Bendis run. Dude, let me tell you, it's so good.
You know, hopefully there is someone out there that, because I do know, like, there are a lot of some Loonies that have their favorite issues. If I can actually just ask you now, Joey, what's your favorite? Do you have one favorite Moon Knight issue?
That's, you know what? That's hard. I think it's something between. Either one from the Scarlet Redemption arc. There's also one. Oh God, I think it's number 34 in the mentioned Sienkiewicz run, and then the first issue of the Houston and Finch run. That one's so good.
That issue 34
so
is that the music box one? No.
No. Oh, it's the It's like, no, it Hit It. That's the name of it. Hit It. That's such a good.
About issue. Yes.
I don't remember the numbers because I'm terrible at remembering.
Yeah, no,
things,
Hit It. I know. It was
so good.
Yeah, that was. I think we did review that as well. That's somewhere down back with Khonshu. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I do like issue 5 of volume 1, the Mensch one. I don't know why. It's the kind of, to me, it's a pseudo Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know, the the scary mum and the dead husband and the son. That was pretty cool. But anyway, yeah, issue 6 might be someone's favorite. So I hope we do it justice to you, Looney, out there. Loonies out there. So anyway, this is available on Marvel Unlimited. It's on Comixology and or the Marvel store, Kindle as well. It's available in floppy still. I'm sure you guys, over there in the US of A can find it in a bargain bin. That was me just being slightly salty at the fact that, you know, there are no bargain bins here in Australia.
R.I.P.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Also, there's an out-of-print trade paperback, if you can somehow track that down. I'm going to be reading it out of Volume 1 of the hardcover format, which was re-released...
That's the one I have, too.
Oh, you do? Do you have the full hardcover format or the
hard? Yeah, it's all the issues.
That's good. Yeah.
It's right in front of me right now.
I wanted to get that as well. This is what I think this was released a few years before that, or around, and it'd been out of print. Actually, it was around 2011. I think it was printed. It collects in hardcover issues 1 to 7, and then the 5 issues separately. So any which way you read it, Loonies. This was released in October 2011, and we have writer Brian Michael Bendis, penciler Alex Maleev, he does the inks as well, colorist Matthew Wilson, letterer Cory Petit, and editor Tom Brevoort. Now, for those that don't or haven't listened before, Joey and I, we will go through a bare bones, which is a synopsis, just in case if you just want a roundabout way of knowing what this thing's about. And then Joe and I will break it down into some aspects, writing, artwork, themes, characterizations, any references, just to really kind of, get thorough with our review. I was about to say,
I'm ready to get thorough. I'm just saying now, I'm just so ready, caffeinated and ready to be thorough.
Excellent. Well, Joey, why don't you hit our loonies with the bare bones?
All right, I'm gonna beat this over y'all's heads. So this is just like, I didn't write this description. This is from a wiki, right?
Yep.
Okay, I'm just reading it. Don't shoot the messenger. All right. The next morning, while Buck is working on the Ultron head, and that's Buck line, by the way, he watches the morning news to see found footage on the screen of Marc's evening. That's a terrible sentence. Buck uses his old S.H.I.E.L.D. contact to try and reach Sharron Carter, but he is redirected to a mailbox. Meanwhile, the Nightshift stand before Snapdragon to answer for their failure. However, they are redirected to the LA Kingpin, Count Nefaria. Nefaria questions if Marc gave away any intel on the stolen Ultron head, but once they confirm nothing was mentioned of the head, the Count horrendously murders the group. Later, Maya breaks into Marc's home to wake him up. She comes to apologize for attacking Marc the prior night, repeatedly. The two discuss the emotions and trials of their profession, but she ultimately needs a place to stay and lay low. Maya makes herself comfortable. That evening, Marc is in bed with Maya, but they are awakened by Steve, Peter, Logan, and others in the flesh. They received Buck's call to Marc's annoyance regarding the Ultron head. The Avengers want to interfere as this is their paid grade. However, Marc has a lead on the LA Kingpin and is not ready to surrender the head just yet. This is like Final Fantasy VII. Marc tells Steve that he wants to use the head as bait to expose the Kingpin and take him out. Steve is hesitant on Marc's plan, but agrees to let him move forward.
Yes, there you go. Loonies, that was the bare bones, courtesy of WIKI.
I feel like I just got called on to read out loud in language arts class.
It is a challenge in the way, Joey, that you get things thrown at you grammatically, and you've just got to try not to be... They're like mines. You've just got to try not...
I know, I was trying to, but dude, my leg is gone. I can't fully avoid...
That's it. And definitely, I have awakened myself. So, stuff like that. It's good.
I just like reading it, like in that. But they awaken by Steve. Also, it's kind of wrong though, because it's like that evening Marc is in bed with Maya. Like they don't like that implies I don't know that they slept together. They're not like in bed together.
Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna slap the shit out of this wiki writer.
Well, thankfully, I guess they have the benefit of being anonymity, actually. So whoever wrote it can just tra-li-la-li-la away. No,
was it you, Ray?
No,
I know it was
no, it wasn't me. No,
no,
I'm not gonna claim
your
it,
English is a lot more refined than that. That's for sure. To say the very least.
But anyway, Loonies, it does give you a gist of this story. Make of it what you will, that writing, that bare bones. So, Joey, I'm just going to ask always overall impressions of this issue. Had you reacquainted yourself with issues 1 to 5 before, or did you go into this cold?
I went into this cold, which I think is kind of important, at least to me, if you're reviewing like individual issues and like you're doing it in the manner that you are, where you're kind of, sporadically going from run to run and doing other things with the podcast. Because I think it helps you see the issue fresh, like almost as if it would be like if you picked it up from the newsstand. Or newsstand, what is this, the 90s? You know what I mean.
What's going on, Joey? Yeah.
No, I'm just like stuck in a time loop, man. But I think that's, that speaks to Marvel's main editorial impetus of like each issue sort of standing on its own to some extent. Mm-hmm. So, I guess I could have reacquainted myself, but I kind of wanted to keep it like that. So.
And you did find it. How did you find it then? Just
overall, it's not a bad issue actually. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty good one, all things considered. There's some stuff in here that I don't like, or I think is a little I can nitpick pretty easily. But I think overall this issue's pretty good. Okay. There's a lot of. Do you want me just to start exploding on this? Like, should I
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, go.
All right, so let's talk about the writing a little bit.
Yeah.
Writing's okay for the most part. But it's I noticed that I think this run in general, but this issue specifically is very sort of cinematic. Mm-hmm. If you look at this issue in the grand scheme of things, not a lot happens, but I think that because there's so little plot development in this issue, it gives a lot of room for like tone and mood and atmosphere. Mm-hmm. And I think that it largely delivers. Like, you've got a really interesting contrast of colors here, where it's like a lot of teal contrasted with orange, and then those two colors are really prominent, and there's like some gray to balance it out. And none of the characters are super out of character. They don't really say a whole lot of things that are bothersome. I'm gonna nitpick one little thing about it though, and there's two things in here that do the thing that I hate about Moon Knight, where it's overselling the crazy,
Yep.
And okay, so there's one. It's like the reporter. It's like the like Buck Lime watching this news reporter like from a distance, and the reporter says something. Seen onlookers called crazy, and like I don't know, juxtaposes that with Moon Knight, because you need to know that it's crazy, and you don't need to tell me that Moon Knight is crazy. Just show it. I'm so sick of him just being like, I haven't taken my crazy pills today. So
yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of like being hammered over the head with that point. And especially if you are a Moon Knight fan, it's okay. We know, okay, that's his angle, that's his gimmick, okay. But they keep on reinforcing it. Maybe it's because for this, maybe this is being catered towards people that aren't familiar with Moon Knight, so they're really trying to get the message across. But you're right, it's quite obvious, isn't it? Not only this issue, the lead up to everything is just how. It's all based on how crazy Marc is.
Right, and there's a line too that Marc says when he's kind of interrupted by Echo or Maya, when she just kind of comes in his room, and he says something like, "I don't know how to act normal, and I'm doing the best I can to keep up appearances."
Yeah,
and I feel like that's kind of out of character in a way, and stop me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like it's kind of out of character because it's like trying to make him vulnerable. But I feel, and that's fine, because I think that maybe he needed a little bit of vulnerability after kind of like the really, really strong 90s machismo and even early 2000s. But like, I just feel like Bendis sort of wrote him a little bit too incompetent in this entire run. And this is just, it like typifies the problem. So I don't know. What does that say about Moon Knight in general, though? Like, that he doesn't know how to act normal, and he's doing the best he can to keep up appearances.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that line as well. I feel, I feel Bendis, doesn't write him in proper character, and I only say proper in the way I think, this is my just personal view that Moon Knight should be. Because as you say as well, the 90s and even the early 2000s, it showed a different Moon Knight as well. But even if you look at the classic run, if you look at that seminal run by Doug Mensch and Bill Sienkiewicz, the way Moon Knight goes, sure, he's a little uncertain at times as well, but he doesn't come across as it seems here. What's the word? Vulnerable, as you're saying, or
I know it's like part of his arc in a way, because he hits the bottom and then he has to pull himself out, and like when he pulls himself out, he's probably a little weaker than he was before, so he's probably a little bit more flawed. But I think like I try not to look at that like subjectively. I try not to think like this is not what I want Moon Knight to be, and like X is not how I want Moon Knight to be, and Y
sure.
is. But objectively, I do think it makes him a little incompetent, because like he doesn't really do a lot in this entire run. Like in these 12, this is 12 issues, right?
Yeah.
This whole, he doesn't really do a lot. Even like, and I don't want to step too much beyond issue 6, but he kind of, like, what does he do in this issue? Just kind of complains.
Yeah, this is this is the big thing. I mean, as well, and you touched upon it earlier about this. Sure, it doesn't have much going on at the moment because, again, I truly believe Bendis, he writes for more holistically, not the serial format. He's just written something and he's broken things up. And there's a little bit like the two main points here, writing wise, and again, I think the writing here is quite serviceable. I think that the dialogue is quite good. There aren't as many.
In context, I agree.
But like as you say, there are those. I liked his like if you're talking about trying to subtly show Moon Knight, I loved his thing where Echo does appear in his room and he asks her straight away, look, are you real as well? And then
that was witty.
Yeah, and then the twist at the end, which I thought was cool, about having the Avengers there, and they are real, because we've been set up so much with having Spider-Man, Wolverine, and Cap as his other identities. So I like that little play that Bendis has there. But you're right. I think the tone of Marc and the way he's written here, even looking at it, I'm agreeing actually, Joey. Like looking at it objectively, where he was left off in the bottom, or actually not even bottom, the Benson run at the end, towards the end of that run, where he decides to go back, and he decides to go to LA. Well, actually, he decides to go to New York, but he's ended up in LA for some reason in 2011. Bendis just decides to put him there. But
the spring break.
Yeah, exactly. But there is a level of like resolve and steel in him by the end of that series, and so to him to come back here. Sure, maybe he's making inroads with his production, TV, movie or film production as Stephen Grant. He's got that there, but yeah, he does largely seem like an uncertain, character. Albeit though, at the end, he does stick to his guns with the Avengers, and he does convince them to follow what he has planned out. I mean, you're talking about Mark Spector's going up to Steve Rogers, who is a master strategist, a guy that his mind works on a different level because it's peak human performance. And he says, no, just, hear me out. We're going to take this to Count Nefaria, and then we're going to kind of take him, which seems very counterintuitive. So I kind of like that instance of Mark as well. That seemed kind of... I want to say actually
strategic, tactical.
Yeah, tactical. But I want to say accurate. But actually, having said that, he has really not shown that many traits of that beforehand. I mean, I'm only working off also the handbook of the Marvel Universe as well. So there's a lot of stuff, a lot of information you can glean from that. And he's meant to be a master strategist as well. You don't necessarily see that in the comic series that he's in, but. That's always kind of stuck with my mind, just because of his backing and CIA and in Merc and and being
yeah, and the whole
soldier
idea of peak performance, like Moon Knight or Marc trying to stand up to that, or like trying to contribute to that in a way after he's been cut from the West Coast Avengers and stuff, and yeah, in peak performance in the sense that like me after Earl Grey, or that's just how it is.
Yeah.
But there's another really interesting line too in that whole sequence with Echo.
It was a long scene.
Yeah, it was. I guess not little. But he says, like, he says, "You're doing what I'm doing. Like, you just kind of make it up as you go along." And then she says, I think that you're just projecting that onto me." And I think that this is actually a really good, even though I kind of disagree with like making Marc not as confident or determined, but I think that this is a really good exchange and really good writing, because it's like, it ties into Marc's psychology a little bit. Like projecting is definitely like a defense mechanism. And so that's something that somebody with so many personalities and so many like little Swiss cheese holes in these personalities would easily do, like rely on something like projection, like without even like realizing it, almost like paper thinly. So I really like this whole exchange, but all right, maybe I'm insane. But one of the reasons why I like this issue a lot is because there's a sense of nuance and ambiguity in it. Like, I mean, yeah, the Avengers are there, but are they really there? It's kind of weird. And Echo being there is kind of weird. And even though, like, they are there technically in issue 7, like, that's kind of brought up, it's still a little, like, in my head canon, this is, like, you're unsure if it's, like, a figment of his imagination or not.
Well, that's good. I mean, I didn't pick that up, but yeah, you're absolutely right.
Because like look at how, like, right before he starts seeing Echo, he sees his visions or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he sees Echo, and then she's kind of like questioning him in the same way that his like Avengers personalities are.
Yeah.
And he kind of like does adopt an Echo personality later in the series in the run for like a second after she dies. But like, it might, like, the way that it's written, it could go either way, and that's what I think makes it strong. There's that sense of ambiguity, and
that's really good.
Nuance.
I like that take. I didn't see it myself, but the fact that you can maybe consider that Echo is a figment of his imagination, because that was the thing that kind of brought you back. Or kind of clinched it for you. When Echo sees the Avengers, you're thinking, oh, okay, so they are real. But what if Echo isn't real herself? And I like that. And I reckon Bendis could have played that a bit more. Maybe I didn't really pick up on that because I just assumed that she was real. I'm just having a look now. She doesn't really do anything, like she doesn't punch him or anything. And it kind of makes sense because...
she just touches his face.
Yeah.
But if you look closely, like, there's no like hard physical contact. It's almost like ethereal. And so and look at, there's I don't know what page it is because I have this open on a graphic novel. But there's like when he first sees the Avengers in his room after talking to Echo, it's a really cool visual element because it's like they're all pretty much single panels, but the top is this long double panel across 2 pages. So you have these like looming Avengers faces, and then in the middle, like, it kind of cuts them down a little bit, and then at the end, on like the bottom part of the page, it like trickles down. So it's almost kind of like they're sort of fading, like fading out or like dissipating, sort of. It's a really, really cool artistic touch that fits the whole scene super well.
Oh, look, I'll put that down to Maleev as well. Yeah, I don't know how much layout, say, Bendis has, but no, that is a good touch. Absolutely. I was also just thinking as well, another thing that kind of lends itself towards Echo being a figment is that Marc gets the apology he's probably wanting from her about her punching the hell out of him in the previous issues.
Yeah.
So again, could be just him. But I love this idea that you mentioned, that it could be really just a psychology kind of evaluation of himself, like him just talking out and using Echo as a soundboard, or the figment of Echo as a soundboard to work on his mental issues. I think that's really really cool. Because
she's like also kind of submissive though in their exchange. She seems a little submissive. She's like it wasn't entirely one-sided. Like, he apologized for kissing her or whatever. It wasn't entirely one-sided, like subtle ethereal touch. And then like later he's just like kind of like it's in one of the top panels I remember. He's just kind of like touching her shoulders,
yes, like
sexily. And I don't know, that this is just, the more I talk about it, the more I'm starting to buy into my own theory that like it's kind of, ambiguously real.
Well, the end.
So it's almost like a power fantasy, or like just kind of fantasy in general. Like the hot girl comes in my room at night and says, "Ooh, I'm sorry," like, "Ooh, it wasn't one-sided. I do want to smooch it," that kind of thing.
Well, another thing actually that is for this kind of theory as well, Joey, and it is one of my points for the art, was that what I found a little unerring was that Echo, who for all intents is deaf, and she needs people to see people's faces to actually read their lips and understand what they're talking about. Many times here you see both of her face is turned away and Marc's talking, and she addresses.
She's not even looking. Yep.
Yeah, so she hears him. So again, if this is a figment of Marc's imagination, of course that little detail could easily just slip, and Echo could just understand him regardless of whether Marc's looking at her or not. All this, Joey, sounds really good, though. But as you did say, not getting into the further issues, there's also the notion of Buck Lime as well here. But he could maybe be a figment as well, because Buck's here.
Was he in the later part of the issue? I thought he was only in the beginning.
No, he's in amongst the Avengers as well. He's standing there.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe, could be not. I like your theory, Joey. I think that's that would have actually added a whole deeper level to this story, and I probably would have given it a lot more if Bendis maybe played on that a bit more. Maybe, and I'm kind of contradicting myself now because I mentioned earlier about him hitting us over the head with a hammer. Maybe if he brought that out a bit more, make a little bit more obvious that it could be ambiguous. I don't know how you do that, but
I think that's Marvel in a nutshell, though.
Yeah.
Like, like just like these amazing sequences of nuance and whatever, and then just big giant obvious hammer bashing you in the face and spoon feeding you the plot, and it's such a weird dynamic that Marvel manages.
It is
in general.
Any other things on writing, maybe, Joey, that you think that you liked? I can kick you off here. Anyway, so you mentioned, because there are two big scenes, and you mentioned the Echo Marc scene, which is a big one. What are your thoughts on Count Nefaria? The reveal. It's the first full reveal of him, and Nightshift.
Yeah. So his full reveal, like his actual like coming down or whatever, because he literally just descends.
Yeah.
I remember when I was first reading this, I was like, Doctor Strange?
Yeah.
Which is, maybe that's intentional too, because it's like he could look like anyone else because he's just not really that important. Like, he's not as like cool and mysterious as he thinks he is, or like as big and menacing. Maybe he just looks like everybody else.
Yeah.
But the whole sequence with Nefaria. Technically, I guess he's Italian, right? So it'd be like Nefaria. But like either way, if I'm gonna be like Guy Fieri, but Yeah, I think it's actually a pretty good little scene. I mean, I can say whatever about his whole arc in this run, but I think in this issue, it's actually pretty good because he comes down and he chastises Snapdragon, and then he's just like, he just roasts those grunts that he has, like, for messing up, for letting everyone get away. And then I really like that cut where he's like, or I think it's Snapdragon says, it's best to look away. And then it like cuts, and then it just shows like his mouth, and then you see like smoke and embers and stuff.
Yeah.
And then that's it. And then later you see like a smoldering ruins. I think that's awesome. It makes him look scary as hell, even though he's not in even the slightest bit.
No, no. And I mean, these grunts though, Joey, they are. I mean, because you hadn't read the reread. Issues 1 to 5. This is the Nightshift, right? So they're not a big deal, but they are well known. They are known in the Marvel universe. So he's actually Bendis is in one fell swoop.
Yeah, he's taking some chances, man.
Sorry?
He's taking some chances.
He's taking some chances. I mean, yeah, granted they aren't. I mean, I talked about TikTok and all that. They aren't the best, but I don't know. I found this. I found it was visually really fun to look at. The predictability card, though, I could kind of see it coming a mile away. Even though these guys are the Nightshift, and you think, okay, well, surely they won't be killed. But you know the old trope, Joey, of like a villain or a head villain coming over and just to kind of stamp his authority over his grunts, he just kills them. And I was kind of, seeing this coming. It had to be something big, had to be something bombastic from Count Nefaria. And he did it. And these guys, I don't know all their names, they kind of goaded him almost as well. I guess maybe out of desperation, they started kind of mouthing off at him, but that's not going to help you. So he killed them all.
I kind of like that because it sort of engages in this dialogue with the reader too, because you kind of think that you almost have the thought of the shit talking Nightshift grunts. You almost think like, oh yeah, what's he gonna do? And then he roasts them, and it's like, oh shit, well damn, like oops. And I think that's actually pretty good writing. Yeah, in my opinion. Again, you can say what you want about like the greater context of the universe or the characters, but in this issue, I think it's good. I don't know. Okay. And I like that contrast with like the blue of the room too, because it's like or purple of the room. You go from this orange to this purple, and then like the whole issue runs on this gradient that's like really visually appealing, and like it keeps that pacing up.
I think the colors and the effects in that bit where the Nightshift are basically dying, and all those rays are kind of spewing out of their eyes and mouth, and I really love that visual effect there of the red and the yellow and the stark white, like a big burst of light. I think some really cool stuff happening, and even there's a texture there as well. You're getting that on your copy as well, right? In that explosion that Nefaria does, there's I don't know what you call it. Is it mottled, or there's like a
oh yeah,
a circle,
like little ash. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, quite nice. I mean, so that again, I think you'd maybe give that to Maleev. I think he does stuff like that. But yeah, no.
Yeah, I think Maleev really carries this issue, to be honest. Like, I think I could just imagine the story being kind of whatever, and him trying to, they'd be like, oh, you could do this really interestingly. Like, it's a really good, I can see the writer's room dynamic going on here.
Yeah.
And it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Any other notes on art or any other big notes you wanna? I don't have anything on themes really. I mean, with this issue, there's really not much.
There's some other stuff on art too.
Yeah,
a little bit. I got some other. So it's like I kind of mentioned this before, but it's very cinematic. Mm-hmm. Like the pacing is very cinematic. The way it shifts perspectives, and again changes like the color. I think it flows pretty snappily. You know. And it's kind of almost like 90s, like noir, sort of. And I eat that up. And then there's that shower scene where it kind of cuts to those like dark colors to the light of the shower scene. That's really cool, and you see like the blood running down, and then like the empty room and the shadows. It's really moody.
It is
moody,
yeah.
And that, but in a not in an edgy way, but just it sets this tone, which I think the rest of the run maybe doesn't pick up on. But like again, in the context of this issue, it's great. And so it's like, again, you could talk about that the warm and the cold colors too. It's like kind of that weird dynamic with Marc too. Is he friendly? Is he smart? Is he like trying to be emotionally engaged? Is he just being a hard ass? Like, how much of this is machismo? How much of it is like genuine virtue? And there's a lot of like really cool subtle things with the art too. I also really like those like landscapes, like the setting shots, the setting panels. They're really good. So thanks, Maleev.
Yeah. I think what really stood out for me as well were those establishing shots of the landscape as well. But if you look at the beginning with Buck Lime, and in the warehouse scene with the villains, a lot of detail is given to the backgrounds, which I think really does add a lot, because I think I was a little critical, I think, in some of the past issues as well, of there just being he's already got in this whole run, Maleev, he's already got a different style to that he did in Daredevil. It's a lot more sketchier, which I believe is an intentional thing for this series, right? So he's deliberately done it that way. But I think by adding more detail in these backgrounds, I think it just adds so much to it. And he didn't have that in some of the issues before. As you mentioned as well, with the shadows, I love it as well. There's a lot of faces in shadow here. So Count Nefaria, there's Marc as well.
And look at that first shot too, with Buck Lime on that rooftop. You see these like, it's like a shadow of the window across these crates, and it just looks really good, man. It's really good.
No, that's really cool. And he always does a really cool Moon Knight, that's flowing kind of cape. It just like it's I know I was going to say formless. Just very abstract, really cool.
Oh, it's very Spawn. And speaking of which, when Count Nefaria drops down, I was like, Spawn? Is that like he kind of comes from the from the top, kind of like Spawn. I don't know.
Oh, I thought of 1989's. I'll just say the one reference, 1989 Tim Burton's Batman, just crashing through that skylight. I mean, I know a lot of heroes have done it, but that's what I thought immediately. So okay. So with the art there as well, I didn't pick up any references to any other runs per se. This is very much just a self-contained issue in itself.
There's like a reference to his stint in the West Coast Avengers.
Oh yeah.
And then there's something from the reporter about, like, it says something about Red Skull's Blitzkrieg, I remember.
Oh.
Was that something in the previous issues, or was that just something that was it just like a throwaway line just to engage the universe or something?
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I mean, you're right there. The Red Skull's Blitzkrieg, I don't know, but that does sound like a very concrete bit of evidence of a reference there to something else. So we're talking 2011. I can't for the life of me.
Yeah, I didn't read a lot of stuff from this era, to be honest. But
yeah.
There's and going back a little bit to the whole crazy thing. There's I forgot who calls him, but somebody calls him like a C-list crazy superhero.
Oh yeah. That was the villains. They're saying, look, we got 6 of you
This is the Nightshift
to pick up Nightshift. Snapdragon was saying, we got the 6 of you to just take out 2 of them, and you couldn't do that.
Yeah, but it's kind of interesting because, I mean, again, okay, crazy. Okay, we get it, dude. We don't need to keep telling us that Marc is insane. But I think it's kind of a funny little meta-analysis, like, because Moon Knight has had this problem for so long until recently, where he's kind of been shoehorned into this C-list, B-list rank,
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you're doing that, but you're also like it's this run that kind of also put him in there. So it's like it's like you're making this shitty and you're keeping him stuck.
Yeah,
you're keeping him at the bottom, man.
Yeah.
Let my boy climb up.
Yeah,
let Lemire take him to the top. Quit putting him down.
You're contributing to these villains in in these comics, thinking that. Yeah, I mean that's what
exactly.
That's what is. Yeah, you as in Brian Michael Bendis.
Yeah,
that's funny. Let me see what. The thing with LA you were talking about as well. It just seems like at the beginning. This is at the very beginning with the news reporter as well. It just seemed to me that they seem starved of superheroes. I mean, aren't there superheroes in LA? I mean, they're not all concentrated in New York, are they?
No, it's just the whole setting thing. I didn't want to talk too much about this because I feel like you've probably beat this horse to death when you've discussed this run in the past, but like, just why LA, man? Did you have an editorial mandate that says you need to write Marc in LA and make him a producer? Like, it's just so wacky.
It is wacky. Oh yeah, you're right. I don't know if it's editorial. I don't know whether it was Bendis, but as I mentioned at the end of the
like
Benson,
it wasn't a creative thing.
Sorry,
like it seems like it wasn't a creative thing. It seems like it was something that was brought down. Maybe that's just me, or maybe it was an attempt to like tie him back into West Coast.
That could be it. Maybe they were edging towards him being being in the WCA again.
Yeah.
That
sounds like a sports league. Just Marc in the WCA. I'm seeing a jersey with Spectre on the back of it now.
Yeah, it doesn't make. I mean, as I mentioned, that Benson run, he's so kind of hell bent to catch up with Norman Osborn in New York, and his because he takes over Shield, right? That's yeah. So he's hell bent on that, but then all of a sudden we see him here. Who knows?
I mean, if you're gonna bring him anywhere but New York, bring him to Chicago. Bring him back home.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just biased as being a Chicagoan, but yeah.
Yeah,
but
he seems out of. I mean, I know he was on the West Coast, but he just seems a little out of place, especially the way that he's evolved over the years. I don't know, but maybe that's why they wanted him there, somewhere totally contrasting to. Or, as you say, maybe this huge thing about him being in the TV production, Stephen Grant. So, obviously, that's in LA.
Yeah, I was going to say Stephen Grant, too, that whole plot. I feel like Bendis was like, maybe like, okay, Stephen Grant's going to be a movie producer. Where do we bring a movie producer? Bring him to LA.
Yeah.
So.
But not much has happened from that, really. I mean, again, there's a couple of mentions in the first few issues to establish that he's there in LA for his film/TV production, but it doesn't really go any further.
Maybe like that's why, because they know he's sort of B or C list, and you don't want to have him fighting the big powers, and he just almost has a new setting.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so many reasons that this could be. It's hard to say.
It's hard to say. Anyway, I don't know. Do you want to give this a rating, Joey?
The whole issue?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Have you got something?
I want to say like a 6.5.
Okay.
Maybe.
Let me punch that in.
Maybe even a little higher. But I'll say 6.5. 6. Mm-hmm.
Let me. Have I got the? I don't even have it in there. Okay, 6.5, which is Yeah, it is 6.5. I'm trying to get the Khonshu rating, but I don't have it here with me. It's dropped off
I
the
will not
sheet.
give the rest of this run a 6.5 by any means, but
You will not give the rest. Okay, yeah.
This issue is pretty good, I think. If you analyze it outside of the of the canon.
Yeah, look, 6.5. That's pretty good. Look, I'm gonna have to a little bit harsher. I'll give it a 5.5 out of it. I do like that theory that you had, Joey, though. Again, that just kind of deepens everything for me with this sense of what is real and what isn't. And that actually makes that scene, which is the final act or the final third of the issue, a lot more interesting, with Echo not being real, and that being a conversation, in essence, of Marc with himself, to kind of like, I guess, resolve a lot of things that he had on his mind, and his thoughts on Echo as well. So no, I like that. The art, I think, will, similar to what you said, carries a lot of the marks for this. But again, it's if I'm to judge this on a single issue as well, again, this works a lot better with all the other issues around it, in and around it. As a single issue for me, it's not... Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting enough read, but it's something that I'd put away and just go, okay, I'm not going to put it down and go, wow, that was just that blew me away.
Yeah, it's just there.
It's just there.
It's like a developmental issue.
Yep.
It's an issue to sort of build development, but nothing really gets developed or happens.
No.
Kind of. Echo appears and Nefaria roasts people. Cool. You know?
Yeah, it pushes things along. We see Nefaria and Nightshift are gone. We see now what Marc intends to do, which sets it all up for the next issue, issue 7. So this big showdown between him and Count Nefaria. So it's all kind of putting the pieces in place, but to get there, it's just taken a few steps to do that, and that's all. Nothing big here, unless you're a big Nightshift fan, of course. In which case...
in which case, big F.
Yeah, big F. So there you go, Loonies, 5.5 and a 6.5. So a good 6 average. Definitely just worth checking out if you haven't. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Bendis as well. And having said that, Joey, we do have some feedback. So... I'm wondering if we can... Do you want to divvy this up between us?
Yeah, you go ahead and grab that first one.
Yeah, excellent.
I just want to read Chad's.
You want to read Chad's? Okay. I'll read the...
Yeah, I don't want to give Chad a voice.
Okay, you'll grab Chad's one. Okay, I'll read the first one. There's 4, so I'll get the first 2, you get the next 2.
Okay.
The first one is from our Facebook page, a nice short and sharp one from Jason Williams. Hello, Jason. He just mentioned that's an amazing cover. We didn't actually talk about the cover, Joey.
Oh, yeah, Carol Danvers isn't even in this episode, or in this issue.
Yeah.
But she's in there.
She's in there. And I think another Looney asked as well, who was that girl in the mask? And I had to reply in the group, I believe that's like Carol Danvers, but she's not even in it.
It looks like the whole team was not on the same page. Like, literally, with that.
Good call.
So, here we are.
But, it is a nice cover. I like Moon Knight in it.
It's dope, yeah.
Yeah, very kind of spectral kind of looking Moon Knight there. But, no, thank you, Jason.
Do you have the variant in your hardcover? Or your graphic
Yeah,
novel?
I've got the variant. I do. Is that the one at the end of the issue? Hang on, let me see.
No, it's right when the issue starts.
Oh no! In my edition, I've got it at the end. This is by Terry Dodson and Rachel Dodson.
Oh, huh.
Oh no,
on
that's
mine,
issue 7.
So
no, sorry, no, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah, on mine, it's a variant by Marc Texiera. I don't know how you actually say his last name, but he did not Midnight Suns.
He did Ghost Rider.
Marvel Knights.
Oh,
He did the Marvel Knights team up stuff. But it's like do you see it as like Wolverine is like
No, I don't.
Crouching down with his
No, I don't have it on
claws
my.
out.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. I know it in my mind, and Moon Knight's behind him, right? And he's
and then there's the moon copter thing behind.
Yep.
Behind him. It's actually kind of cool, but
that is a good one.
A little cheesy.
Yeah, no. Oh, yeah, I kind of like it. It's very whoever did the finishing on that kind of really changes Marc Texiera's art a little bit. I'm used to the 90s Ghost Rider, and you see him in Moon Knight as well a bit later on. Good art there as well. But I haven't got it in this edition. So in the old hardcover, it's not there. Sorry, I was citing issue 7 had a variant, but that's later.
Ah, bummer.
Yeah, but no, thanks, Jason, for that. It is an amazing cover. Right, now we get into our Facebook group. First bit of comment here from Brian Bizzle. Big shout out to Brian. This run has some of the best Moon Knight art. Sadly, one of the worst Moon Knight stories. Moon Knight's other personalities all came out of years of being undercover as them. Okay. Hated how Bendis was like, nah, he is crazy, so he can just be anyone because I don't know how to write a Moon Knight story.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty right. Yeah.
We're on the money there. I guess props for trying something new, but not a fan. No, and I think you summed it up there as well, Brian. If anything, I do admire Bendis for trying something a little different. I'm always a proponent of someone trying something with a character. I mean, like, if you want just a rehash of how he was before, then you've got all those issues of how he was before. So something new, something different, whether or not it actually adds to the canon properly, or whether or not he does pay respect to the history of the character is another issue. But yeah. So not an entirely happy Looney there, Joey and Brian.
No, Brian's a little salty, and I don't blame him because I'm a little salty about this run too. I'm not like full on like Morton salt, but I definitely got a little salt. So I apologize, Chad, because Chad said that. I think he said that I had a Jared Leto's voice.
Oh.
And for that, I have to read Chad's comment in the worst voice ever. Keep in mind that Chad sounds nothing like this, but I just have to do it just because I'm salty. So it's nice to have a layover issue to collect where things are going, answer a few questions, etc. It's really strange to me that internal cap refers to our boy Marc with a K, maybe an editing typo. Yeah, it's true. I really love Maleev's work. The moody noir mess in this color is beautiful. It's pretty much the reason I read this series. Well, that and the spider quips. Kind of disappointed in Buck giving up Mooney during his op, something Frenchie would never do. I mean, it's essentially the mantra for the series. Bring back Frenchie and Marlene. Pretty colors, keep the Avengers out of Marc's nagging. I'll give it a 5 out of 10.
Thank you, Chad. I'm just getting visuals of Chad batting his eyelids. You know, kind of Betty Boo style. I don't.
I have no idea where that voice came from. It's just there. You know, it's funny because I agree with pretty much everything he says too. Like, I wasn't trying to make it sound like trying to demean his message.
No, of course. No, he knows it's
trying to roast him.
Looney's joshing around. Big shout out to Chad as well. But yeah, no, moody noir mess in the color is beautiful. Perfect.
Yeah, I actually wanted to mention that the spider quip in this killed me too.
Yeah,
where he's like, can I get a student loan?
Yeah, I like...
Little did you know, Spidey, if you voted for Bernie, your debt may be canceled. So, you know?
Yeah.
Spidey's a Bernie supporter.
Yeah.
You know it.
I feel like Bendis does write Spidey quite well, and he does kind of get that humour. We're probably touched with a lot of the Bendis written Spidey, which is why we kind of... I mean, because I liked it as well, too. It had a very distinct Spidey kind of feel to it.
True. Yeah, I definitely see that. And then we have Tristan's story Locke, and he says, I'm not going to read this in a voice because I don't want it. I don't know this person. I feel like Bendis never actually reads the comics. He just goes into a comic shop and asks for the simplest explanation of the premise of a comic book, then writes the stories without ever reading any of the comic series he writes for. It's like he writes stuff with the intent of being non-canon.
Yeah. Oh, look, it is funny. It is funny, Tristan, but I think he's onto something here. I mean, I know our fellow collective podcast, Sons of the Dragon, the Iron Fist podcast, they believe it's a travesty of justice what Bendis has done with Iron Fist when he writes Iron Fist. It's literally what Tristan says here. It's almost as if Bendis is intent on being non-canon with the character. maybe he's a blue sky thinker, Bendis. He loves to kind of just throw anything out there. But it really does get some fans up in arms, which understandable.
Yeah, I don't like his Iron Fist stuff either, and I don't blame, especially if you're an Iron Fist fan. I could imagine going into this and just ready to hate it.
Yeah.
So I think he's just obstinate. I think he just wants to do his own thing, and I think I kind of respect that in a way, but it's also. Yeah, I can see why people hate it and why I also have some issues with it too. But when he's on, dude, Bendis is on.
Oh, absolutely.
So
I mean, there's a reason why, as well. I believe his run on Daredevil is one of the best, and he makes it work. It's that treading that fine line of just doing what he wants to do, but kind of paying respect to that character. I recently read also his recent Spider-Man. I'm not sure if you'd read that. It's the first time, apparently, Miles Morales and Peter Parker meet. Fantastic. Really good. And again, I'd say he does Spider-Man, or Spider-People, I think, really well. He just seems to get that. But I think Tristan's right on the money here. So, unfortunately, not to say that you can't like this run as well. I mean, there's a lot to like about it. But I just wanted to offset that, Joey, with Bendis is a good writer in his own right. And sorry, just to go back a little bit as well, because I am reading a lot of his Superman at the moment, which is the beginning. Some of it is really good, but some of it falls into his trap of just him doing what he wants to do and it not being really relevant to Superman that much. Anyway, just my thoughts. Any final thoughts there, Joey, on Bendis before we close this one out?
Actually, I got one little thing. So I think one of the biggest issues I have with this issue, no pun intended, and that was awful, I'll see myself out, but I think that, not a lot really happens here, even though I think that this issue did a good job of like setting a mood and a tone. Actually, a really good job of that. I think it's also exemplary of a problem with contemporary comics, and it's like, because it's so serialized and intended for this bigger arc, it's not dense enough. And I see this a lot, so much with comics that come out in the last couple of years. And there's some amazing stuff. And then there's some stuff that's like, it might as well be 3 big long issues, because you could tell that story in that amount of time. And you see this with like TV shows sometimes too, and like it's like the Netflix bloat.
Yeah.
And I think there's actually a lot of this run that has that a little bit. So I think that's something that doesn't really ever get talked about too. A lot of people like to focus on like how Bendis doesn't know how to write this character, and yeah, that's kind of true sometimes. But like, I think the biggest problem with the run is just that, there's a lot of kind of nothing. And I think in this issue it's great because you have that artistic ambiguity thing that I ran off at the mouth about, and then you have like some exposition and so on, but as a whole, I think it's something that could really bring down what is on paper a good story. So.
Yeah. Look, and just finally, just on that point as well, Joey, because I do agree there is a lot of modern comic books do, I guess, tend to head towards that kind of track, but. There was this one issue I read. I picked up Spider-Woman just this week, Carla Pacheco, issue 1, and it was a ripper. I loved it. As issue 1s go, it set up, I guess, the series, but at the same time, though, it had a very self-contained story in issue 1, and I just found it absolutely brilliant, the way she handled it. There's a lot of action. You get a sense of where Jessica Drew is, but there was this niggling thing, right? Only a little thing, and this was a little thread that will tie into the rest of the issues. But that wasn't the focus. It had its own story in itself about this ransom and some rich kids on a yacht and stuff. And then it was only at the end that it came with this reveal of something's wrong with Jessica, and she started, no spoilers, spoilers. It's not too bad. She spews up stuff and she's in a bad way. And
she has coronavirus.
Well, yeah, funnily enough, it was very relevant in that sense. That's what I thought. But that kind of sets up for the story. So, I mean, there are plenty of great writers out there that do. I mean, I love Dan Slott as well. He does, and he can make self-contained stories, but also tie it into something greater. But there are also examples of just serializing a greater story without paying attention to that particular issue that you have. It's a fine line.
Yeah, and I just want to go on the record and say I love slice of life shit. If it's mundane and it's done well, I love it. I think like Stephen King's best stuff is slice of life.
Yeah.
Or partly. I love Haruki Murakami. You know, I could read 600 pages of somebody cooking pasta and listening to jazz.
Yeah.
Like, I think, but only if it's done in a way that's engaging and, like, artistic, and there's some sort of, I don't know, bigness to it, some, like, mysticism to it. And, like, with a lot of modern comics, it's not really that. It's just trying to meet a deadline or trying to fill in a gap or trying to bring in the two teams together, artistic and the writing teams together, and so
yeah,
I thought I would close on a bigger thought.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So there you go, Loonies. Plenty to think about. Have a good read of it, and a massive thank you, Joey, for coming on. It's always been fun. It's always fun chatting with you. I can't believe. I mean, if I'd be up at your hour, I would be incoherent. I'm incoherent in the best of times, but I don't know how you do it. But thank you.
I'm doing my best, but thank you for having me, and it's always great to talk with you, Ray, and finally got a chance to talk about comics, man. What a world.
It's awesome. I'm definitely keen to have you on if you're keen for any other comics, because I like this insight. I like what you're, this thing about Echo again. It just, that kind of...
Well, I'm always down to talk Moon Knight, so... Cool. If ever you are starving for a guest, I will wake up at a ridiculous time.
Wow. Okay. Well, just be careful what you say, because I might hold you to it.
3:15 a.m. Just if it's during the quarantine, whatever, because I'm basically out of work right now.
Yeah. Right.
So,
yeah. I mean that's it, isn't it? And yeah.
Make it quick, buddy. Come on. Come on.
And so, Joey, where can Loonies find you if they want to contact you and listen to more of you?
Well, you'd have to get in touch with my secretary, and you guys could find my podcast, Jump and Shoot. It's a video game podcast. You could find us on SoundCloud. There's actually not a link I can just say without, just a bunch of numbers.
Sure. Got that in the show notes.
But you can just Jump and Shoot on there. We're on Spotify. We're on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. And you can follow us on Twitter, or me on Twitter, at twitter.com/podcastjump.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much it. I don't really have any other...
No, that's pretty good. Well, you're also...
other promotional material.
You're also in the Looney Bin, and you're in and around the ITK community, so...
I am.
Yeah, definitely catch you there.
From time to time.
We've been a bit quiet on Discord, Joey. You were the bastion over there.
You know what, man? I haven't been using Discord in general lately.
Yeah,
so
it's hard to keep a handle on all the social media. I'd love to get more into Discord, but see how we go. But no, a huge thank you, Joey. While we're here, just with respect to call, just a couple of shout-outs on just my own little plugs. Last Sons of Krypton, a Superman podcast, episode 39's just dropped. My co-host Connor and I, we review a Neil Gaiman, the only Neil Gaiman story he's done on Superman. It's The Legend of the Green Flame. It's a team up with Green Lantern. You can listen to that now. That was a very cool... I'm a big fan of Neil Gaiman. Are you a Gaiman fan, Joey?
Yeah, I was just going to say that run is... Yeah. I don't know if you could hear the chef's kiss.
Oh, yeah. I got it.
Maybe it was too loud. I don't know. I see my levels are clipping. Might be.
But yeah, episode 39. Check it out if you're interested at all in Superman. Also, TV podcast industries have set up their Dreadful podcast website, and I have had the absolute pleasure of being on there reviewing retrospective seasons of Penny Dreadful in the lead up to Penny Dreadful City of Angels coming out towards the end of April. So Derek and the fellas over there, John and Chris, are releasing season 1, episode 1 onwards. I'm on a few of those episodes chatting with the guys about one of the best series is Penny Dreadful. Joey, again, a fan of the show, or?
I have not watched it, honestly. So
it's good.
But I did watch Castlevania season 3, and if you haven't watched that series, you need to get on it right now, boy.
I've got to watch season 1. I think I've seen half of episode 1, but yeah, I will. That looks really. I'd really love the animation in it. It's cool. Yeah. Also, finally, as well, I just want to give a late shout out because these guys, they contacted us on our page as well. I posted up something all to do with supporting podcasters, and you know, this being a time of self-quarantine, it's a nice alternative, and just giving podcasters a shout. These guys, Panels to Pixels podcast, are very good as well. So a shout out to those guys. Links to their show in the show notes. With that, Loonies, I think we'll have to go. I wonder if I hear a little bit of crying. Oh my gosh. Just quickly, next phase, it's a waning Crescent.
It's me, spoilers.
It's Joey crying. We are going back to a waning Crescent, the LUNAR-PICK Classic Run review. It will be Moon Knight Volume 1, Issue 12, The Nightmare of Morpheus, and I should have guest Josh on for that, so that will be a lot of fun. Just quickly as well, an outro. Patreon, please support us if you can, like Joey, patreon.com/ITK Moon Knight. Again, our sponsors, Hello Headphones, and we're affiliate members to Amazon and Entertainment Earth, so if you'd like to buy anything through the links in our program, please do so, and that will help support the show. Finally, we are a member of The Collective, a nice group of podcasts. Give them a listen. The directory is, again, linked in our show notes. A huge thank you again, Joey. It's been a blast. I'm going to be putting you on speed dial. Don't you worry.
Thanks again for having me, man. And, one last parting thought is, no matter what our leaders give us, don't take it as... oh, look how wonderful this is. Look at this wonderful bone that we've been thrown. It's all politics, man. Even if you get that $1,000 check.
Oh, yeah.
Just remember that.
Yeah, we're getting something like that as well. Anyway, on that note, Loonies, may Khonshu watch over the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.